Hi, everybody. Guess you guys caught me sneaking a peek at Facebook. Anyway, I read the rest of the introduction, and I have to tell you, it is so damn thick. I think mapping it and getting through it would not necessarily add a whole lot of value at this stage in our study of the Light on the Yoga Sutras by Iyengar. Um, so what I like to do is kind of skip ahead and go to the story of Patanjali. And this kind of like isn't too mappable either. What I like to do is just read it together with you guys, and that'll be the presentation for today. After Patanjali, after the story of Patanjali, we'll then go into an overview of the Yoga Sutras, the four parts: Samadhipada, contemplation; Sadhanapada, practice; Vibhudipada, properties and powers; and Kaivalyapada, emancipation and freedom. And after we get to that, we'll look at the themes in the four padas. This is a very thorough book, right? I mean, we haven't even gotten to the sutras yet. And then we'll finally start the sutras. So we still have a long way to go building our foundation. And I guarantee you, once we build our foundation, we'll really get a lot more out of studying the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Okay, so let's talk about Patanjali. And I'm just going to read this. It's a relatively short bio, and I think it's very informative. So historically, Patanjali may have lived somewhere between 500 and 200 BC, but much of what we know of the master yoga is drawn from legends. He is referred to as Svayambhu, an evolved soul incarnated of his own will to help humanity. So, just pausing here for a second, the Hindus believe that once we achieve emancipation and liberation, we don't have to come back. Here, in the endless cycle of reincarnation. However, there are some souls who volunteer to come back to help humanity. And he's considered one of those. He assumed human form, experienced our sorrows and joys, and learned to transcend them. In the Yoga Sutras, he described the ways of overcoming the afflictions of the body and the fluctuations of the mind, the obstacles to spiritual development. Patanjali's words are direct, original, and traditionally held to be of divine provenance. After more than 20 centuries, they remain fresh, fascinating, and all-absorbing, and will remain so for centuries to come. Patanjali's 196 aphorisms or sutras cover all aspects of life, beginning with a prescribed code of conduct and ending with man's vision of his true self. Again, right, the 8 limbs. Each word of the sutras is concise and precise. As individual drops of rain contribute toward the formation of a lake, so each word contained in the sutras conveys a wealth of thought and experience and is indispensable to the whole. Patanjali chose to write on 3 subjects: grammar, medicine, and yoga. The Yoga Sutras, his culminating work, is his distillation of human knowledge. Like pearls on a thread, the Yoga Sutras form a precious necklace, a diadem of illuminative wisdom. To comprehend their message and put it into practice is to transform oneself into a highly cultured and civilized person, a rare and worthy human being. And then in the next paragraph, Iyengar proceeds to prostrate himself before the great sage. And then he tells a legend, which is interesting, but I'm not going to read the whole thing, about how, the legend of how Patanjali came to incarnate. So I'm going to jump to the conclusion, and which I think is really important. It says, together, Patanjali's 3 works deal with man's development as a whole, in thought, speech, and action. His treatise on yoga is called Yoga Darsana. Darsana means vision of the soul and also mirror. And here's a really important point that he makes. The effect of yoga is to reflect the thoughts and actions of the aspirant as in a mirror. The practitioner observes the reflections of his thoughts, mind, consciousness, and actions and corrects himself. This process guides him toward the observation of his inner self. Isn't that what we do when we're doing the asanas, the poses? We're looking at our body either in a mirror or using our third eye, and we're correcting ourselves, we're correcting our muscles until we have our alignment just right. This trains the mind. This trains us to look at not only what our body is doing, but also what our mind is doing. As we do the asanas longer and longer, we find that it's really all about the mind, and there really is no distinction between the mind and the body. Patanjali's works are followed by yogis to this day in their effort to develop a refined language, a cultured body, and a civilized mind. So, in our next installment, we'll be covering the different sections of his overview chapter by chapter. And we'll see you soon. Thank you for listening.